Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
What is up, Heat Seekers? It is game day. I'm here with Bryce. We're going to be going over start-sit questions, injury news, how that affects other players, answering all your questions. We already got one immediately. Questions popping up. We appreciate it. Make sure to drop those in the chat on whatever platform you're on. We're in 3-4 Facebook groups. We're in on YouTube. We will be here till 11 a.m. answering those questions. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Man, we're excited. Game day, Bryce. First off, tell everybody who you are. We haven't been on stream together very much. You're on the Wednesday night stream. I'm on the Tuesday night stream. But tell everybody who you are, your favorite team, who you're rooting for today, what games you're looking for, all that Patriot nonsense.
Right. Yeah. So my name's Bryce. I've been a part of the Roto Heat community for a while now. I'm most known for the Wednesday night redraft stream. I'm always on the Facebook and Discord too, trying to put a little input here and there. Definitely a big Patriots fan. But the games this week I'm looking for, other than the Patriots game, are I think, like everybody, is going to be the Saints and Buccaneers game. And I'm actually a little bit excited to see tonight with the Cowboys and Rams. Seems like there's a lot of high-powered offense in those two games today. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, those are definitely good games. I'm also, obviously I'm a Bears fan. Got the Anthony Miller jersey on today. He's my favorite play in DFS at 5K and 2% owned. But I'm looking forward to that Seattle-Atlanta game as well.
Yeah.
I think there could be a lot of offense in that game. I'm just ready for football. I'm just ready for that first Sunday, just sitting here watching all the different games and watching lineups, man. Like we've put all this work in all off season, which has felt longer and longer than normal because of COVID and no preseason, and then it's just like bam, here. There's no like warm up, no preseason to get us ready, and then bam, here it is. But yeah, man, I'm so excited for football and watching all my lineups and hopefully a few of them go off and put me in a good spot and hopefully I think we're going to see a lot of offense, right? Last time we had an off season like this was the holdout 2011, and we got very little defense to start off that season. The first like 3 weeks, like every week, like 10 to 12 games we're going over, and there just wasn't any continuity on defense. Some of the teams do worry me a little bit, especially like Tampa Bay, where these guys haven't played a game yet together. They're all new. Any guys, I'm a little worried about any guy that switched teams in the offseason and hasn't really, especially on offense, where they haven't got that continuity. Like think of somebody like Hayden Hurst, who is coming into a spot where he's new on a team, and they've got guys that have been there for a while, and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, and even DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona. There's not a lot of worry. I mean, I have no problem starting those guys, but there is that low floor factor with just getting that continuity with our quarterbacks and getting into the swing of things with a new team.
Yeah, I agree, because especially when you talk about like wide receiver, with running backs you don't have to worry as much because I mean, a lot of the times you just run the ball, other than like being a back out of the backfield. But when you're talking about like a quarterback or a wide receiver with a new team, a new guy throwing it to him, a new guy getting thrown to, you just are kind of hesitant to see if players like Hopkins who've been elite with everybody they play with, but you're still always worried that he's not going to be as good as he was when he was with Deshaun Watson, which might be very, very possible. I think a lot of people have that worry with Chris Godwin this year as well. So I definitely it's going to be exciting to see because we got no peek at it in the preseason like we usually do. That gets you a little excited because remember when OBJ went to the Browns, everyone got so excited in that one little preseason drive where Baker Mayfield marched him all the way down the field in like 5 plays and was just slinging it around, and then disappointed the rest of the season. But that little peak itself just got people excited, and we're not getting that this year.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and answer this question real quick so we don't fall behind. Nathan Sweetser over on YouTube asked, do I start Antonio Gibson or Jonathan Taylor? And he said it's no PPR. So where are you going with that one?
Ooh, no PPR. That's hard. I don't know if I've ever answered a non PPR question.
I can tell you if you got to think about it for a second that I'm going Taylor there fairly easily. I think Antonio Gibson, for one, Philly's run defense was really, really good last year, and obviously defense isn't nearly as sticky from year to year as offense is, especially with continuity. But I still don't trust Washington's offense. I don't think there's a lot of touchdown upside there. And Antonio Gibson is a converted wide receiver playing running back. I would, in a PPR, I would probably feel more comfortable going that route. But in non-PPR, I would definitely go Taylor. Colts also have a smash matchup today. They should be ahead. Taylor should get carries, even though Marlon Mack may get the far majority in week 1. But there's a lot of touchdown upside there as well. If he gets that, even in that fourth quarter, he could rush for a lot. So I definitely go Taylor there.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. Even though I don't think Taylor gets majority of the touches, they could just be blowing him out pretty early. You would ideally think they'd be blowing him out because on paper the Jacksonville Jaguars are by far the worst team in the NFL. How they play as a team together is yet to be seen, obviously. But with the touchdown upside for the Colts, you in non PPR, I think you almost have to go Taylor in that situation.
Somebody on Facebook said, with Sanders out, I need a flex, and I am torn. Anthony Miller or Austin Hooper PPR. This one's easy for me. Anthony Miller's my favorite DFS play of the week. Against the Lions, last time in this matchup, against the same cornerback out of the slot, he went 9 for 140 yards. He's easily my flex play. Out of those two, and we talked about Austin Hooper's another one of those guys switching teams. We don't know how they're going to use him. I don't expect him to have the volume that he had in Atlanta. I expect him to still have good volume. I still expect him to be a good tight end, but when matched up against a high ceiling wide receiver, I'm easily taking that wide receiver that's also played with his quarterback for multiple seasons.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm super low on Austin Hooper this year. I don't know. Baker doesn't really utilize the tight end as much as I would like him to be able to start a tight end from the Browns, at least not in that situation. So I'm gonna go with Anthony Miller on that one as well.
Another one from Facebook, 0.5 PPR, Philip Lindsay or Jordan Howard.
I'm gonna go with Jordan Howard, and that's because I think that since the Broncos paid Melvin Gordon, they're gonna give him first crack. So I can see an easy split in that backfield with Melvin Gordon getting most of the carries in week 1 until Philip Lindsay ultimately outproduces him and is more efficient, and he ends up taking over. But I think Jordan Howard is going to be the man in Miami for week 1, and the Patriots' run defense is not good. Their secondary is great, but their run defense is not good. We saw it in the playoffs last year. We saw it several times throughout the year last year. So I'm gonna go with Jordan Howard.
Not only did we see that last year, but we also know that they had a lot of guys opt out as well. So and that's where they get hurt the most. From the defensive perspective, I think that this game could still. We saw what Parker went 8 for 134 in this last matchup. I think there's some some fantasy gems in this one, and even though Chung and what's his name, who's the other big one that opted out? Hightower. With them two out and less pressure, that still hurts your secondary, even though they have very good cornerbacks. There could be more offense in this game than a lot of people think. Jay Ryan on YouTube says, with Sanders out, Rojo or Fournette, PPR 0.5. Man, this one's so hard only because Fournette's only been there a week. I probably go Fournette just because I think he's the far superior talent, and even on less touches, could be the better fantasy producer in week 1. And I feel like the one thing they're gonna do is utilize him inside the 20. Even if that's it, if this offense does move the ball like Vegas is expecting, like everybody's expecting with this being a high-scoring game, he's going to have touchdown upside in this game either way. So I go Fournette.
Yeah, it's easy for me on this one. I think Fournette. I wouldn't be surprised if Fournette outtouches Rojo in this game. Rojo in this game. Bruce Arians, even though he said Rojo was the guy, he also said that Fournette looks great and is going to have a significant role in week 1. So I think that's already hinting at this is not Rojo's job for maybe not even this game, but I'm going Fournette this week, especially with the touchdown upside.
I love I've never seen a picture of Tom Brady with Ronald Jones. But there's been a bunch of pictures, and like even Tom Brady shared the video that Leonard Fournette put up on Twitter, and I feel like Leonard Fournette was a guy that Tom Brady was like, I want that guy, sign that guy.
I bet I was.
And if Tom Brady wants something, he's gonna get it. Lyrical Loop on YouTube, and this is a good problem to have when we talk about sit starts. This is a good one to have. He says, Cup or Thielen.
Oh wow.
That's a really first world problems here, Lyrical Loop. That's a good wide receiver group you got going there. I struggle with this because I don't know if Thielen can produce against top corners. So we haven't seen Thielen. He had that 9 straight 100-yard games or whatever it was to start 2018. I don't think he had one the rest of that year or in 2019. I think he gets hurt by Diggs leaving. People are very polarized on Stephon Diggs, right? And his, love-hate relationship with Stephon Diggs. But the thing is that he commands attention, and that helps all the other wide receivers on that group. I probably go Cup. This was the wide receiver 4 last year. I understand usage changed a little bit, but Brandon Cooks is also gone. Cup's going to be running routes for this team. They love him, and I just like Cup, the player, better than Thielen. And not only that, but we know that the Rams are going to throw the ball. The Vikings could throw the ball 12 times. That's why Diggs was bitching last year, because they weren't throwing the ball and he wasn't getting volume.
Yeah, I agree. He saw Diggs left because he wasn't getting enough targets. And Thielen, he is good. However, I just think Cooper Kupp is a better fantasy player in this situation. I love watching him. He was top 4. He was number 4 last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's top 5 again if he sees the amount of targets he was in the first half of the season that he did last year. So I'm definitely going Cooper Kupp. I don't know if there's really a matchup where I'm going to sit him this year, to be honest.
Yeah, not until we see it at least. Rah over on YouTube says, is handcuffing outdated? I'll go ahead and let you take that one first.
That's a good question, because a lot of people find it, a lot of people don't like handcuffing, and a lot of people do. I personally think it's outdated. I never draft. If I draft a running back and I feel like I have to draft their backup, I just don't draft them. That's just how it goes. I know a lot of people worry about injury-prone running backs, and that's mostly Dalvin Cook, People say, Leonard Fournette. He just had that one season though where he really got hurt. Yeah, I think handcuffing's outdated. You draft talent and then you just kind of go from there. I think it's outdated personally.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't necessarily know if it's outdated. I don't know that it was ever really the best concept to begin with. Um, there are situations, right? Like Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, where Latavius Murray has standalone value, and we're confident that he could be a top back, a running back one if Kamara went down. That's mostly because of that offense and the touchdown upside and everything like that. Those guys, I'm not necessarily targeting them, but if they're there when I'm looking for that running back, then I don't have a problem taking them. I'm not taking somebody just because I want to have the running back to back up my running back. Because a lot of those guys, we don't even know if they're good, right? We don't even know if they'll come in and be good. We're looking at it right now with like Jacksonville, right? Like, okay, if Leonard Fournette would have stayed there and you were trying to handcuff him, good luck trying to figure that out, right? Because now we've already went through, and obviously Armstead's out because of COVID, Ozigbo, IR, whatever. But before that, we were wondering, okay, is Chris Thompson the guy to own? We still don't know if it's Chris Thompson or James Robinson. Then they brought in Ogunabulu Wale or whatever his name is. It's just not every situation is created equal. So I'll draft those backups if they have standalone value. The Boston Scotts, the Latavius Murrays, even Tony Pollard to some extent for Zeke. But I like getting those guys when the starter in front of them is not on my team, because then I can get my starters and another team starter if that injury happens, right? If Zeke gets hurt and I have Tony Pollard, but I don't own Zeke, I can have multiple guys that are valuable. No matter what, those guys are never going to be valuable at the same time. You're not going to be able to. You're never starting Tony Pollard when Zeke's healthy. That means you're just using 2 roster spots to fill 1 starting lineup spot, and I would rather get other guys and try to have depth at that position.
Right. I almost think about it like if I had Barkley, say we're far in our draft, but I have like Saquon Barkley, and it got to a point where I could draft his backup, or I could draft like a guy like you mentioned, like an Alexander Madison or Latavius Murray. I'm not gonna just secure my backup when I think those guys are in better situations, and if one of those guys go down, they're gonna outperform whatever backup I might draft for Barkley if he goes down.
Right, absolutely. That's exactly how I look at it as well. Okay, we're falling behind here. Josh DeRazio over on YouTube says pick 3: Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, Marquise Brown.
The first 3: Cooper Kupp, Calvin Ridley, and then Terry McLaurin.
Kupp and Ridley are like secured for me. When it comes to McLaurin and Marquise Brown, I think it's closer than a lot of people think. But the one thing we do know is that Washington's going to have to throw the ball, and McLaurin is the only guy that's guaranteed targets on this team. Like, he's the only one that we know is going to have a significant part of this market share. So that would definitely, to start the season, put McLaurin over Brown for me. Now, here's the thing. If you look at your matchup and you say, okay, I feel like I'm a little outgunned and I need upside, Brown gives you, McLaurin's got upside too, but I think Marquise Brown has one of those unique upsides where he could go off for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns on any given week just because of how that offense works. Once he pops off a 60 or 70 yarder, then, all bets are off. So, if you need the upside and you feel Marquise gives you that, I definitely wouldn't mind him in that lineup. I also think he's going to get targeted more than last year. I think he's going to, now that he's healthy, he's got a year under his belt. I think he's going to definitely be more highly targeted. Matt Baker says, Kupp, Ridley, and Hollywood. I don't want anything to do with Um,
Harry?
McLaurin in week 1. I'm not sure why you don't want anything to do with McLaurin. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Darius Slay's on him." Darius Slay wasn't good last year, and I don't
He
know
was.
that Darius Slay is going to be good this year. And volume matters to me more than a defensive matchup at cornerback. And then if somebody has a good matchup and good volume, then that's a whole different thing. But I don't think this matchup for McLaurin is as bad as people are making it out to be, and I think the volume would overmatch that even if so. Um, Guy in my league dropped Montgomery. Should I drop Boston Scott for him? Um, that's tough. Only because Boston Scott is starting week 1 with Miles
Yeah.
Sanders out. If Boston Scott's not in your lineup, then I would.
Yeah, I agree. I would drop him anyway, probably just because I think for the whole season, David Montgomery's going to have more value later in the season. So I'll take an L week 1, even if Boston Scott's in my lineup. That means I can have David Montgomery. Depends on how deep you are at running back, but
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that at all. Melvin Gordon, Rager, or Kareem Hunt. I have to start one in PPR.
Kareem Hunt, that's my start. He just got paid. They're going to be losing, and he is the back out of the backfield for them. I see him outscoring and outtouching Nick Chubb in this week.
Man, I love Kareem Hunt. It's that Denver situation's so tough. I love Rager too, and I think Rager is going to be highly targeted right out the bat. But I think the safest play is Melvin Gordon for the reasons you said earlier when the question was Lindsey or I don't even remember who the other side was, but Lindsey was in the question.
Yeah.
But just because of them paying Melvin Gordon and him getting an opportunity early, I don't love it, but I probably go Melvin Gordon. I know we only have 2 people, so now you got a stalemate on votes. Maybe some people in the chat can help out and drop in there to break that tie. Go Bucks. That's all I got.
Hey.
Julian Edelman, John Brown, Amari Cooper, Juju. Non-PPR need 2.
Julian Edelman, John Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and what was the last one?
Amari Cooper.
I'm going Juju. Man, I'm probably going Juju and Amari, even though I don't like Amari's matchup this week with Jalen Ramsey, but there's no guarantee Jalen's going to cover him the whole game. They could put 2 on Amari and put Jalen on Michael Gallup if they really wanted to. They've done it before. I'll probably go Juju and Amari just based on who the court. I think that's who's going to get the most volume.
I'm the same. I'm going with Amari and Juju there. The other 2 guys are safe plays too, right? So, they've got a pretty high floor, but a pretty low ceiling, I think. And I don't know how Julian Edelman and Cam are going to do together. So yeah, that's it's a big one. Have to wait on Hollywood for me. Only have 3 games over 50 yards last year. I mean, I understand the concerns, but the leap wide receiver stake from year 1 to year 2 is a pretty big one, and then another big one from 2 to 3. But there's no other wide receivers on that Baltimore team outside of Mark Andrews, who we don't even know how many routes that guy's gonna run. Right? He had like one of the highest efficiency ratings for touches to routes run that we've ever seen. I'm just, I think Marquise Brown is going to be solid now that he's healthy. Anthony Miller or Jonathan Taylor. Anthony Miller easily for me. We've already talked about this one. Matchup's juicy. Shade721 on YouTube says need 2 in standard league. Carson, Connor, Jonathan Taylor. Carson, Connor fairly easily for me in week 1.
100%. I agree.
Galladay goes down. Do I start Gallup, Tyler Boyd, or Deontay Johnson?
That's a hard one. It's definitely between Gallup and Boyd for me. I think I I really like Michael Gallup this week. I don't know. I know Boyd is going against a super good secondary out there in San Diego, or not San Diego anymore, but the Chargers. So I'm gonna go Gallup, but it's close.
It's kind of funny. I'm looking here at my DFS Army wide receiver cornerback matchups, and believe it or not, Gallup has the worst cornerback matchup for Dallas.
Does it?
Michael Gallup is facing off against Troy Hill, who gave up a 54.7 quarterback rating on passes his way. He had a higher pass block breakdown, whatever you want to call it, percentage than Jalen Ramsey did last year. He had a higher interception percentage than Jalen Ramsey did last year. The only plus matchup they have for Dallas is Amari Cooper versus Jalen Ramsey. So just a little bit of that wide receiver cornerback matchup, I think, are typically overblown anyway, right? Like, volume is going to win out typically, and there's going to be a lot of volume in this offense. We expect it to be, again, one of the highest scoring offenses and highest efficiency offenses in the league. Even if you aren't a McCarthy fan, like, this is still an upgrade over the coaching staff that they've had over there forever, that just seemingly had them go 8-8 every year, no matter what, even with all the talent. Let's see, Carson Taylor, Galladay goes down. Yeah. So anyways, my answer was Boyd. I just think the volume there with Boyd. Andy's playing out of the slot, so how much is he going to be matched up with the, cornerbacks there? I think the outside cornerbacks that are really good. It is a tough matchup, but I just think the volume's going to be there for Tyler Boyd. Carson and Connor, somebody said, would you start Henry Ruggs in week 1? Okay, I'll say this while we're going through all these questions. We got to have context with any of these questions, right? Like, would I start Henry Ruggs? Yeah, if I don't have other options.
Right.
It depends on who you're sitting them over, whether it's a good start or not. Or if you're talking DFS, it depends on what contest you're in. These guys will tell you in Discord, I say it a million times, the contest matters where you're playing somebody. Some guys fit all contests. Some guys fit select contests. So I definitely think that, we need a little more context with those questions. Because if you're saying, are you going to play Henry Ruggs over, Marquise Brown? No. Am I playing Henry Ruggs over Hunter Renfrow? Yes.
Sully might disagree.
I didn't even think about that. Sully's probably screaming at his TV right now if he's watching. He loves his Hunter Renfrow. I'm not as big of a fan, but yeah, I'll take that upside over that 8 points that you're gonna get on 6 receptions and 20 yards from Hunter Renfrow. Edelman and Juju, somebody said, pick one for each. Standard scoring, Breeze or Allen?
For standard. I'm gonna go Breeze. Yeah,
Breeze at home for me easily. Scary Terry or Amari Cooper?
I'm gonna go Amari Cooper.
It's Amari Cooper for me as well. The volume's still going to be there, as we said. And one thing I do know is Washington's offense right now on paper looks bad.
Very bad.
Dallas's does not. That's touchdown upside. I'll always take that. And, if you have these guys neck and neck, look at those offenses. Look at who has the better chance to score touchdowns. Amari Cooper has the better chance. I think they both have a decent chance to score a touchdown. But Amari Cooper has a way better chance of scoring 2 touchdowns.
100%.
I also have Marlon Mack, if that is a better option from Gordon and Hunt. I actually like Marlon Mack a lot this week.
Yes.
I think he's going to get a lot of volume. I think there's going to be a lot of volume for those running backs, and the Colts offensive line has a huge advantage over the Jaguars' defensive line. Like there are people saying that advantage may be the biggest advantage that we've ever seen in football with how good the Colts are and how bad the Jaguars' defensive line could be after trading everybody. Half PPR, Ayuk, who is questionable, Lazard or Gage.
Oh man. That'd also come down to game time for me. I'd go Ayuk just for, man, I don't even look at those players much. I think I'd go Ayuk if he's playing, just because of the how thin that wide receiver core there is in San Fran.
I'm going with Lazard because Green Bay's also got a thin wide receiver group. You know, there's a lot of hype coming out of camp about MVS, but we heard that same thing last year. Lazard was the one that actually played way better last year. We don't know. Ayuk's coming off injury. We don't know how much he's going to be used. 49ers, for me, could literally pass the ball 10 times, 8 of them to Kittle and 2 of them to anybody else, and then maybe some, dump offs to the running backs, and then just run the ball 15 times with each of the running backs. So I go Lazard there. Gage I do like, but he's fighting with Ridley, Julio, Hurst, even Gurley for targets in that offense. So Drake, Connor, Bell, need to.
Drake and Connor,
easily for me.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, we are. Jazz says we getting busy today. Yeah, it's crazy how much more action we've got just a year ago. You know, I did this by myself a year ago, and that's harder than hell. Doing it by yourself is harder than hell. But there's a lot more action, which helps a lot keep this stuff flowing. Craig, who is one of our defensive specialists, says there are a lot of questions in that secondary in Los Angeles for the Chargers. How they play their DBs will be very interesting. So that's an interesting note. Chris Carson or Mostert? That's coming from our boy Sully.
I'm going Mostert.
Going Mostert over Hunter Renfrow. No, I'm.
It's a little bit.
I'm going Chris Carson until we are certain that Mostert is going to get the bulk of those carries out of the 49ers backfield. That's a good problem to have. We talked about it with that wide receiver question earlier. If it comes down to I guess if you're deciding between Carson and Mostert for your second running back spot, I'm assuming this is for a flex spot, because if not, you would just throw the other one in your flex and not have that question unless you're just super deep at wide receiver. Either way, it's a good problem to have. I go Chris Carson just for the known that we have, and that's that they use him. Anthony Miller at Detroit or Deontay Johnson at the New York Giants. I also have Rager.
Do we have to? Do you want to answer it? It's Anthony Miller.
If the question this week, and as long as it's not like, do I play Anthony Miller or Julio Jones? My answer is going to be Anthony Miller. This is a smash spot. He's got the cornerback matchup he's got is terrible. Last time they faced off, Anthony Miller had 9 catches for 140 yards, just dominated them. Detroit had the worst secondary last year. I think Miller's in a smash spot, and the Bears' target tree's really thin, right? It's not the same as Pittsburgh's. Like, Deontay Johnson's not necessarily a bad play, but there's hype around Chase Claypool. There's going to be receptions coming out of the backfield with with Connor in Chicago, it's Robinson, Miller, and then Cohen.
Right.
So it's a much smaller, truncated target tree now that Gabriel's gone. Obviously, Ted Ginn's in there, but he's not gonna. They're gonna take 2 or 3 shots to him a game. But it's in that wide receiver group. It's Robinson and Miller, and nobody else even competes. PPR flex, Boyd or Djax. This one, Aiden. Aiden's over on YouTube. This one simply comes down to me for, do I need upside or do I need the floor, right? Because Djax in this spot could have 2 80-yard touchdowns in this spot against Washington.
Right.
But Boyd is going to have that floor that you look for. I think Djax's floor is higher than it normally is because I think he's still in line for like 6 targets, which is great. But if I look at my matchup and I feel like I need a lot of help, I need somebody to go off to compete with my opposition, I'm going with Djax.
I agree. He always plays well against old teams he used to play for too. You ever notice that? He always goes off for a big touchdown.
What, week 1 last year he had 2 touchdowns and 140 yards or something. I mean, he just put up a bomb in week 1, then he got hurt.
So highest floor you go with Boyd. Highest ceiling you go with Djax. It just depends on what you're looking for that week.
See, that's one thing that I think a lot of people, when they're setting their lineups on Sunday, they don't do. They don't look at their opponent and objectively say, like, you got to be honest with yourself. Like, is this team's roster better than mine? Like, do I need the upside, or okay, do I have the better team? Do I want to secure that floor? I think it definitely matters on your roster versus your opponent's roster. It's always great when those options come down to like a late game, right? Like if you have the guys and they're going against each other, and it's like, I don't know how many times like Will Fuller played in the late game with a wide receiver on the other team, and it just simply came down to, okay, well, they've got a lead on me, and I've got to make up points, so I'm putting Will Fuller in because I need that upside, or I've got the lead, I'm going to play, Tyler Boyd or, even a Cole Beasley or something like that that's got a safer floor. So I think it definitely does matter. I like Brady today, but I also have Wentz. Am I wrong to take Brady today?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong at all. He's got more weapons than he's ever had in his career. He's playing against not the greatest defense in New Orleans. I like, and the home field advantage doesn't really matter right now when you don't have any fans. So I'm going with Brady, and hopefully this high scoring game.
Wentz is one of my favorite quarterback starts of the week. There's not many guys that aren't obvious, right? You got the Lamar Jacksons and Russ Wilsons, Dak Prescotts, and those guys, Drew Brees. Outside of those guys, there's not many that I would start above him, so I would go Wentz myself. That's another one we need to chat for a tiebreaker. T.Y. Oh, never mind. I thought he was saying T.Y. Hilton, but he was saying thank you to Paul for answering one of his questions. Jaz, did I miss your question? I don't know. Who is your best DFS sleeper for the week? My favorite play is, it's not necessarily a sleeper, but it's super high, low owned. At least the last I looked, I can double check this because it could change. But Anthony Miller, I've been talking about him. I'm wearing the jersey. I know it sounds biased, but I mean, you're getting that info everywhere. Like every DFS analyst out there is talking about that, matchup. Trubisky, while he sucks, actually plays really well against Detroit. He's went over 300 yards in 3 of his last 4 games, and he's had over 3 touchdown passes in 3 of his last 4 games, and hasn't, like the one game he had 174 yards, he had 3 touchdowns. So either way, he's scoring points for you. He's putting up yards and touchdowns. And Anthony Miller went 9 for 140 against them, and it looks, last time I looked, he was 2% projected ownership in DFS. I just think that's way too low in this smash spot.
I think mine this week would be I might probably sound biased, but I just like Sony Michel. There was a lot of hype with Harris. Excuse me. Harris getting a lot of touches that because Sony was on the pup list and now he's not in the picture anymore, and I just don't see anybody being their lead ball carrier. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sony Michel get 15 to 20 touches in week one, and hopefully he can get in the end zone on one of them.
Yep, he had a touchdown in both games against Miami last year. I think he had 73 yards in one and 86 in another. It would be great to see him hit that 100-yard bonus on DraftKings and get you that touchdown. Would make for a pretty smash week. And I think he's a great pivot now, right? There wasn't a lot of guys in that range. Tariq Cohen at 4,900 on DK was a guy that people were, a little bit interested in. But when the Boston Scott stuff opened up, when Miles Sanders, was ruled out, now you've got a true pivot to Boston Scott, because Boston Scott's going to be really high owned, so you can separate yourself from a lot of people by using Sony Michel, especially in GPPs, right? I would, if you're playing a cash lineup, your head-to-heads, your 50-50s and stuff like that, you're throwing Boston Scott in there in that range. But in GPPs, I think he's a great pivot off of Boston Scott, who's likely to be pretty highly owned. Need 2: Akers, Gibson, Harry.
I'm gonna go. I love N'Keal Harry, but there's no way that he hasn't done anything yet. So I'm gonna go with Akers and Gibson. They're gonna get majority of the touches, I think, in that backfield. So
yeah, it's hard for me. Akers out of those three is definite, because I know he's gonna get some. Gibson, I just don't know. I don't know. I got to see this guy. He's this is his first game playing as a running back. I just don't know. And
it's like two unknowns. You're choosing between two unknowns. Harry hasn't done anything, but Cam Newton's also always been good with big-bodied receivers that might not be the fastest. So it's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully he can maximize Harry's talent.
I probably go Gibson, but I don't love it. I'm cringing when I do it. I wouldn't argue against you if you put Harry in that lineup either, though. I'm going to cringe when I put him in as well, but I wouldn't argue against that. I'm probably going Gibson just because maybe he does get, 8 carries. We don't even know if this guy can see a hole yet. He had 33 carries in college. We don't even know if this guy can see a hole. We don't know how they're going to use him, but he probably is secured more touches than Harry, and that way I would go with him.
Beat out Peyton Barber, the Rojo's competitor last year.
Yeah, if you're a Rojo truther, J.D. McKissick beat out Peyton Barber. I always call him Ronald Barber for some reason. Peyton Barber, for that job. So I don't know. What's that tell you about Rojo's talent? I guess. My top running backs are Connor, Carson, Jonathan Taylor, and David Johnson. I have a great and deep wide receiver group. Should I trade for a top-end running back or ride out this running back group? Honestly, right now, I might try to trade a wide receiver and David Johnson and get a monster if you can. It might not work. People, especially this early in the year, people might not want to trade that monster. But people overreact to stuff, and David Johnson had a really good game, and he looked good doing it. But if I can cash out knowing that this guy hasn't had a season since 2016, I just don't want to bet on him for a full season. So I would try to trade him for sure.
Yeah, I think some more context of your league would be not. I'm assuming this is a dynasty question, so if you could, I would try and trade David Johnson and maybe one of your good wide receivers that if you have a lot of depth, and try and get maybe a younger, more talented running back, and that'd be all of who you prefer in that situation. So
Rob's
in redraft, a little different. But
I'm assuming this is. Yeah, I don't know if this is redraft. I don't know. That would be another way to ask those questions. We do answer a lot of redraft and dynasty questions. So trade questions, that would be good information for us to know. Rob says you'll see about Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow catches the ball, falls down. There's just not a lot of upside there. And I think he's fourth on that target tree for sure. I will say this, not as a homer. Any Boyd questions? Ross and AJ are actually healthy. There should be a ton of openings for Boyd. Since declaration was made, not as a homer, I'm assuming this is Joe Kidder. On Facebook, it just shows me Facebook user on my end, but I'm assuming that's Joe Kidder over there on Facebook talking up his Bengals. Tuna Cat says playing Kendrick Bourne in place of Debo. Okay, if you don't have any other options, yeah. And I'm not sure if you're talking DFS and DFS. Like, I just don't know if they're going to throw the ball enough for it to matter. I'll lay my hat somewhere else, you know, for the majority of contests. Bryce, did you just get up, buddy?
Who said that?
I don't know. The Facebook user, probably Joe again. You don't have to pay him any attention.
I got up at like 8. Was doing schoolwork.
Crowder versus Buffalo, Ingram versus Pittsburgh, Cohen versus Lions, or Latavius Murray versus Tampa at flex.
Man, I think we're on the. I don't know if I'm on the minority, but I love Jameson. I do love Jamison Crowder. I think that Sam Darnold likes to go to him. I could see him getting, he might not have much touchdown upside, obviously, but I could easily see him getting 6 to 7 receptions with 80 to 90 yards. I think if you want to go safe there, I would go Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Crowder has the ceiling, but he's securing you a floor. I'm never really playing tight ends in my flex if I don't have to. So I love Evan Ingram, but Pittsburgh's also a tough defense. I don't know how that matchup will go. And then Cohen versus the Lions is the only other one that I would consider. I mean, Latavius Murray does have some value, but Tampa, their run defense is stout.
Mm-hmm.
Their run defense is really good. Thanks, guys. It's week 1, so I think I want to play it safe and go Boyd. My team is better, I think. We always think, right? It's. I always tell people when we're talking fantasy football, if we knew half of what we think we know about this shit, like it'd be too easy. Right. Burrow to Boyd was all the rage at Cincy practices, I heard. Yeah, I think Boyd's gonna be great. I've always liked Boyd. I think he's definitely undervalued and underappreciated. All right, we've got 12 minutes to go until 11 o'clock. We continue this. We're not done at 11, but we do move over and have this stream for our Patreon, our patrons on Patreon. So if you want to continue every Sunday chatting with us up until 12:15, 12:30, make sure you run over to rotoheat.com/Patreon. Less than a cup of coffee per month. You help the entire team. You guys know we've got 15, 20 guys writing articles. We've got multiple teams of guys doing streams throughout the entire year. Dynasty, DFS, Devi, IDP, everything. Patreon, couple bucks a month helps us keep everything running. We try to keep as much of our content free as possible with Patreon, though. You do get our rankings and our ADP in the off season. And we're going to continue adding stuff to that. So if you want to continue and you want to hear more leading up to game locks, make sure you head over to Patreon, become a patron, and you'll be able to find our Patreon only link for the stream that starts at 11:15. But we got 11 minutes left, so let's get through these as quickly as we can. Let's see. Ruggs or Jefferson? He's looking for floor. That's Kyle over on YouTube. I don't know.
If you're looking for floor, that's a little tough. But ceiling, you go Ruggs for sure. I would say, that this is. I mean, you're choosing between two rookies here, right? So I think you got to go Ruggs because I think he sees more volume.
I would have to agree. Like, I think over the course of their careers, Jefferson has the much higher floor, but there's been word that he's behind right now, which isn't surprising. That doesn't mean that Jefferson's not good enough or anything like that. It's just it's such a weird off season, and not every wide receiver catches up at the same speed. So I'm going Ruggs because I think he's in there and he's getting volume. They're gonna try to manufacture plays for him right off the bat. While Minnesota might not throw a lot, plus they, Olabisi Johnson is rumored to be their number 2 and possibly the number 2 target coming out the gate. Where Ruggs could be, the top target. I think Waller's probably going to be the top target in week 1, but then Ruggs is probably up after that. Expect Cam to be rusty. Very well possible. Hasn't played in a while. Playing on a new team. Playing with new wide receivers.
It'd be nerve-wracking for me to watch it.
Ingram, Mark Ingram, or Boston Scott. 1 point PPR.
Mark Ingram.
I'm going against the grain here. I think Mark Ingram would probably be the popular answer. That's a really good offense, but remember, this guy's in a backfield with 3 running backs. They said Dobbins is going to be involved. I don't think Gus Edwards is going completely away. He was one of the most efficient backs last year on a per-touch basis. And then the best running back is their quarterback.
True.
So there's a lot of people to vulture rushing touchdowns there. I think Ingram is the lead back. He is going to get the most. But Boston Scott, in the last game he played, had 19 rushing attempts and 6 receptions.
So at 25.
And Miles Sanders was active that week. Miles Sanders is not active. Boston Scott is going to be very active in that game. And probably going to hit you 20 attempts there rushing. So I got to go with Boston Scott on this one. Gallup or McLaurin as a Galladay fill-in? I'm going McLaurin.
Yeah, I still like McLaurin over Gallup.
PPR pick 2. I love this. It always changes Edelman to Elderman on autocorrect, and I see it all the time. Edelman, Deontay Johnson, Hollywood Brown, or Marvin Jones? This is Sean over on YouTube.
Man. I think I'd go Elderman and Marquise Brown. I think I like those two.
If Galladay, because Galladay's not ruled out, right? We haven't got the news yet.
Doubtful.
He's doubtful, so he's probably out. I'm going Marvin Jones and Edelman myself. Is Jimmy still solid with all his wide receivers broken? Honestly, Jimmy worries me because I don't know how much they're going to throw. And that's what he needs to produce, right? Like, Kittle doesn't have to have them throw 30 times to produce because he's going to get such a high percentage of that market share that he could have, they could throw the ball 12 times. He could have 7 targets, 6 catches, and a touchdown, and all's well. That's not going to do it for Jimmy, though. They might run the ball just a ton, and Jimmy worries me a lot because of that. Jonathan Taylor or Robinson? James Robinson, Jaguars, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming too. I'm gonna go Jonathan Taylor. I just don't know that backfield in Jacksonville is just so questionable, and I just see him getting behind so much. And Chris Thompson's going to be the back out of the backfield unless he gets hurt. So I'm going to go with the team that I think is going to be running it the most that week, and that's going to be Jonathan Taylor. And the
Yeah,
Colts.
that's where I'm at. Colts are favored by like 9, I think, and if that comes to fruition, then they're Jags aren't going to be running the ball a lot. So I don't know what Robinson will get. I don't know what Taylor will get either, but his are going to be
he just got more touchdown upside.
more touchdown. Yeah, they're just more valuable rushing attempts. Like he could have half, but have double the efficiency. He could average 6 yards per carry, while Robinson averages 3. There's just a lot of stuff that goes into that. I don't even know what Paul's talking about. Obviously, Brian Edwards or Cam Akers.
I'm gonna go Cam Akers. I know there's a lot of hype behind Brian Edwards, but I just see him as the third man there when it comes to the receiving core, and I think Cam Akers is going to be is clearly the guy already, even though the depth chart doesn't say it, but he's the guy there. So
yeah, I'm going Cam Akers too, but I think Brian Edwards could be the target leader on this team when the season ends. I just think he's very talented, could definitely be the better producer out of Ruggs and himself. But yeah, I'm going Cam Akers week 1. Sound thinking Arizona was a cake passing matchup too. He's still talking about Jimmy G. Yeah, they could. I just think they could run the ball a billion times. Would you love your thoughts on Hayden Hurst for this season? I drafted tight end late this year with guys like T.J. Hawkinson available on the waiver wire. Personally, I don't think Hurst is great. I don't think he's going to get the same market share of targets as Hooper got last year. I think Ridley's going to get an uptick. I think Gage is going to get an uptick. I think Gurley's going to command more than Devonta Freeman did. So I don't hate him though as a late pick. Hawkinson, same thing. The guy blocks too much. Until we see that they're running more routes with him, I don't know. Hayden Hurst is probably more secured for targets than Hawkinson. Yeah. Unless that completely changes, we see a complete 180 from last year. John Brown, Cam Akers, or Emmanuel Sanders? PPR.
Cam Akers.
That one's tough for me.
Emmanuel Sanders is one of my guys that I'm like that I was considering starting in a few leagues, but I was just a little bit too deep to be able to start him. But I also like him this week, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean John Brown too, right? But every one of these is in a new situation. John Brown has Stephon Diggs with him now, but John Brown was one of the most consistent. While he didn't have the high ceiling, one of the most consistent receivers last year. Cam Akers, rookie. In a backfield that we don't know exactly how it's going to play out in week 1. And Emmanuel Sanders on a new team again. But we saw what he did on a new team when he got the 49ers last year and looked really good. So it's definitely a hard spot. I probably go Emmanuel Sanders. A lot of touchdown upside in that game. When it comes to receiving, I mean, Michael Thomas is the guy, and then every other target is up for grabs, right? If you earn it, you're going to get it. And Emmanuel Sanders, Traquan Smith has some hype. Breeze said he's finally turning the corner. Or Breeze said he's turning the corner, not finally turning the corner. But, I don't know. I like Cam Akers, but I just don't know the usage. I feel like Emmanuel Sanders is going to be involved in that Saints passing game. Jonathan Taylor or David Montgomery?
I would have to look more on David Montgomery's condition, right? That'd be something I'm monitoring all the way up to 12:55. So if David Montgomery, if they're saying that he has no issues and he's 100%, I'm putting him in. But if they say anything otherwise, I'm probably just going to put Jonathan Taylor for the touchdown upside.
I'm probably playing Montgomery because the touchdown upside's still there. Because Detroit's defense isn't very good. Not worried about that too much. And if he plays, we know he's going to get touches.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. Like, I can't even guarantee you Jonathan Taylor gets 10 rushing attempts. If Montgomery plays, he's getting at least 10.
Mm-hmm.
Or else they would just not play him and not risk him getting hurt, I would think. But I don't know. It's Matt Nagy. He could run more routes than he has rushing attempts this week. I don't know.
It's an easy decision. It's just the injury, like, because it was rumored that he wasn't going to play week 1, and then now he progressed a little bit faster than people thought. So
it's definitely okay. We got to be real quick. It's 11 o'clock, but I want to answer these last questions. Jimmy G, Cam, or Tanny? It's Cam for me.
Yep, Cam.
I have Singletary as well, or Jonathan Taylor. I don't know what one that went to. I'm sorry. DJ Moore or DK?
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore for me, but DK Metcalf, like, that's a good problem to have. But DJ Moore is my first start. DK Metcalf's in a smash spot as well. Deshaun Jackson or DK Metcalf? For me, this is going to be the floor. They both have a ceiling, but this one's going to be, Deshaun Jackson might have a little higher ceiling, but DK Metcalf has a higher floor. So I would look at that matchup like we talked about earlier, see where you feel you're at. Do you need upside or floor? What'd you say on that one?
I said I like Deshaun Jackson for that one.
2 QB, Rodgers, Stafford, Cam. What 2?
Man, I'm going to go Rodgers and Cam with Stafford having Galladay out.
I'm probably going Stafford and Cam. Rodgers, man, he's got that matchup with the Vikings with no secondary to speak of. Xavier Rhodes is not that good anymore. Cam and Rodgers, I'm fine with. I don't think you can go wrong. You have a good 3 options. I typically would go Stafford, but Rodgers does have a good matchup. But he only has one wide receiver. That's a tough one. That's a good problem to have, though. Paul says not Cam. Cam's going to score anyway. It doesn't matter if Miami's defense is better. Cam's going to score points. They wouldn't start him if he wasn't going to be able to produce. A.J. Green or Marvin Jones Jr.?
That's a little bit tougher one, but A.J. Green hasn't played in a while. I'm going to go I think this one also depends on floor and ceiling. I think Marvin Jones is more safe, but A.J. Green could pop off for a couple of touchdowns, but I'm going to go Marvin Jones.
I'm going Marvin Jones, too, until we see A.J. Green's back running full route tree. Scott, Carson, or Mostert? This is our last one.
I might be biased, but I love Mostert, so I'm going Mostert.
I'm going Carson. I'm going Scott. I'm going.
There are a lot of hard ones.
I'm going Scott because of the PPR. Carson catches a couple. Mostert might catch a couple, but Scott's going to be, I think, heavily utilized in that. I'm going Boston Scott with Miles Sanders out. Okay, guys, that's going to be it for this Sunday. It's 11:03. We extended a little bit. If you want, you can join us by becoming a patron on Patreon, rotoheat.com/Patreon. We'll be back live over there at 11:15 and going for another hour and 15 up until closer to game time. But that is a Patreon-only stream. So if you want to join us over there, it's easy, rotoheat.com/Patreon. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We put out content throughout the entire week. We're going to have waiver wire videos. We stream on Tuesdays and Wednesdays during the season. We've got DFS content, redraft, Dynasty, IDP, Devi, whatever you want. We've got it over there on YouTube and on the website at rotoheat.com. But thank you, everybody that came out. The questions were lit. The feed was fire today. And it makes it real enjoyable for us to do that, to be able to answer your questions. So good luck, and we will see you over in the Patreon only stream.